So welcome everybody, my name is Paul. I'm a country realtor in the western part of Virginia, and I talk a lot about homesteading and buying and selling property in the rural areas, and that's my specialty. I've traveled quite a bit and seen many parts of the world and seen some very primitive areas and studied a student of history, and I learned a lot about the way people have lived and homesteading. The reason I'm a big fan of homesteading is because it's the most practical lifestyle, and it's also the most necessary lifestyle for generations of human beings that have lived on this planet, and we've had to just use our resources and be frugal and thrifty and be creative and work with the resources that we have. You see, for example, let's say a subject like bamboo. In many parts of the world, bamboo is a very, very prolific plant, and there's many different kinds of bamboo, and boy, they are still using bamboo right now to build skyscrapers because it's just so efficient. It's lightweight, it's strong, it's got fibers. You can do all kinds of things with bamboo, and you can easily work with it, and it's very plentiful. So what I'm getting at is the efficient use of resources is what homesteading is all about, and it comes down to maybe some money and so on, but the whole idea of being in the homestead life is to be self-sufficient so that at least some of your income might be coming from your own property, and at the very minimum, you're taking care of a lot of your own needs rather than being totally dependent on others. For example, let's say somebody lives in a popular suburb of New York City and they have a high-end house and everything, and they're busy 24/7, work, and they got tons of money, but they don't know how to fix their car. They don't know how their lawnmower works. They don't know how to use a chainsaw. They don't know nothing. They got to pay a lot of money. So what I encourage people to do, especially if you get into real estate, you got enough on your hands if you buy a big piece of property and so on, and you got that overhead, use your skills and your knowledge and the resources that are on your land and property, maximize that so that you can save on money. I have saved so much money, countless amount of money, just because I learned how to do things. Long ago when I was a young boy, I had a car and I realized, man, they got to charge me some money to fix my car. So I get some books. I had a little Volkswagen Bug, and I bought this book called the How to Repair a Volkswagen for the Complete Idiot. And I figured, well, maybe I'll save some money. And I did. So the point I'm saying is that I'm going to talk a little bit about this because on the homestead, and especially in rural areas, sometimes you're not even near where a store is, okay? Or let's say you got to have a mechanic to fix your tractor, and it's not a very difficult problem, but if you don't really know how to do it, you might have to wait for days, or you got to haul that tractor somewhere, or you got to have someone come and fix your tractor. It's just a nightmare. So the purpose of a tractor is so important that people learn how to fix their tractors, and the manufacturers made them very, very simple so that people could fix them and maintain them. And there are tractors out there now. I had one for 1959. It had wheels up to my shoulder, and that sucker was only 48 horsepower. But boy, I bought it for a couple $1,000, and I used it for a lot of different jobs. It had a bucket on the front and everything, and I could put some implements on the back and everything. And after a while, I sold it for about 5 years later for $500. I probably could have gotten more, but the point is I put the thing to use, you see. And it's very, very important to understand the concept of making maximum use of your machinery, your tools, and everything. And for example, I live in a property right here where I just moved here, and I'm a real estate agent, so I see a lot of properties. So I started looking around, okay, what do I got here? Well, I like to have a garden and everything, a small garden, and the thing is that the thing was all mowed. There was like 3 acres, and most of it was mowed and everything, and I figured, well, I don't want to mow all that land. It's just too much. So I'm going to leave about half of it for the birds and the butterflies and the moles and everything, and you see, but I started to look around like, well, I also need some soil, and I found this big pile of dirt in the back of the property, and someone had done some cleanup work on the property years ago or whatever, and they made this big pile. And I got myself a little screen, I built myself a little sifter, and I started going over there, and I realized, man, I got this rich soil, bags and bags and bags of this soil right on my property, and all I got to do is sift it through, and I'll make this pile go down, and little by little I'll get out the boards and other things that are in the soil and throw them away, and wow, you know. So you start looking around your property for things like rocks or trees. We found out we have a whole lot of hickory trees on this property, and we got some maple trees, and we got some acorn trees, some big, huge oak trees. Okay, and we got some blackberries. You start looking around your property, so wow, you know, what can I use? What can I use to save money, to get, like blackberries, okay, raspberries. I lived in a place for a while that had so many berries, we just couldn't even pick them all. There's no way I could pick them all. In the middle of July, they're just falling off the trees, the bushes, and the birds come and everything. But if you have something on your property that has some life-giving, fruit-giving, food, material resource, for example, the hickory trees that I have on my property, okay, they produce the nuts. I can grind them up and use them, okay, but also hickory trees, they drop a lot of little twigs and everything, and man, they make great firewood. They just drop down out of the tree. I just go pick them up and go put them on my fireplace or my little fire pit. And I have a big, huge wood furnace on this property that I can activate and helps me burn my, you know, heat my house and everything. So I can use all the wood that falls off my tree to burn it just as to heat my house, you see. So the point is that use your maximum creativity and the resources on your property. Now I'm going to talk about tools here. Say guns and butter. What's the difference? Guns, if you buy butter, it melts away and it's gone. Okay, maybe it'll make you fat or whatever. But you know, if you buy guns means just not necessarily a gun, but it's just hardware. Something you take a gun. With a gun, I can defend myself and I can get myself some food, and it'll last a long, long time. And all I got to do is pay for the bullets and learn how to hunt. You see, so you get some tools that will save you money and generate some income or generate some food for yourself or some kind of self-sufficiency. You see, so there's many kinds of tools that you can get that'll last a long, long time, and you can be using them for years and years and years to save yourself tons of money and just save yourself a lot of time and aggravation, because nowadays you try to get a handyman to do a small job like fix some steps or something, and like, okay, well, let's see if I can fit you in this summer. You know, maybe this summer my work will be light enough. I'll come and fix your stairs or whatever. But you see, so by being self-sufficient and being resourceful and having knowledge, it makes a huge difference in the quality of your life. That's what it really comes down to, because the whole idea of moving out in the countryside is not to have more problems. You see, a lot of people see rural property as, okay, it's a pain in the neck. I got to deal with that tree, and I got to mow a lawn and get a weed whacker. Maybe I got to get a tractor or whatever. You see, but the thing is, that's the wrong attitude, okay? There are people who just are slaves to their jobs. We all know those kind of people. They're just like, they can't fix a damn thing. They don't know anything except their own job and occupation, and that's all they do. And God forbid something happened, they lose their job, and they wouldn't know what the hell to do with their car or their farm or anything, you know. You see, in most countries in the world, most places in the world, you can't afford to have that luxury of just call up some guy to fix my car or whatever. You got to know some stuff to be self-reliant, because there's a whole lot of other people depending on those mechanics. You see, it's really hard to find a really skilled, qualified electrician or plumber to do a job, because they can work month after month on big construction. They don't want to come and fix your basement leak, you know. Yeah, they'll come, but they'll charge you $100 an hour plus the materials, you see. So there's so many problems. I was a technician for Xerox for a long time, and long ago you learn that most of the problems are simple, okay? Learn how to fix the basic things. Get some tools, know some electricity, and know some basic things, and know how to substitute tools. You see, I'm going to tell you a little bit of fun stuff here, and a little bit of a little exploration here. I'm going to show you this thing here. This comes from long ago. I bought it the other day, and I want to ask my viewers, what do you think this is? Okay, it says Future here. It's very heavy. It's got this design here, kind of a little bit of a grid here, and then, you know, it had these rubber rings around the edges here because it sits down. There's one still left here, and apparently it sits somewhere. So then we had a debate in the thrift shop. What the hell is this thing? You know, what is, it says Future on it. What is that, the 50s, maybe the Art Deco kind of period? So think about that for a little bit, and I'll show you a couple other things, really cool things from vintage things that save you. Here we go. This is an old-fashioned can opener, okay, guys? Maybe people are too young to understand this, but this was the way you put this on it has a little bracket and it fits on the wall like this, okay? And then you can hook up your can and you crank it, and it even has a little magnet, so when you're done, the little lid pops off, and there you go. See, nowadays you go to a thrift store and you find some little electric can opener. This thing here is probably 50 years old. It's probably from the 60s, 50s, or something like that. And I'm going to put it in my 1946 house because it's really cool. You see, it'll last another 50 years for sure. You see, that's the neat thing about technology. Some of the older technology is just really, really cool. And there's another tool that I have, that the old-fashioned drill. Maybe some of you guys know. Here's one right here. This is actually a drill. This was a starter drill that was used in carpentry a long time ago, and it's very self-contained. It's like you press on it and it turns the bit, it goes down the spiral, and you can make starter holes to start your screws. You see, now, why would you have something like that? Well, man, this lasted like 50 years. And what happens is, I got an electric drill. I have one of those things, but sometimes I got the screw bit in it, and I don't want to have a switch and put in a drill bit. And I said, okay, I just got to start the screw, and push this in a few times, and start my screw, get a little hole started, and boom. Okay, so it's something that'll last and last and last. Okay, buy your tools at thrift stores or flea markets and so on. You get them cheap, and sometimes the older tools are made much, much better. Some of the steel that was made back in the 50s or 60s is a hell of a lot better than what you're going to find at Walmart these days. And you pay $1 for a wrench, and hey, it's going to last you another 30, 40 years. You know, can't go wrong, you see. So I really encourage people to go to thrift stores and make a list. I always have a running list of what do I need, okay? I don't want to be in a situation that with something I need, I have to get it like immediately. So I have kind of a running list of things I might need. And sometimes, damn it, I find, there it is. There's that thing. I just waited long enough. I found it damn cheap, and there it is. And I get it. You see, the urgency, like if you feel like, oh, I got to get everything right now, and run down a big box store and buy a whole bunch of stuff and pay a whole bunch of money and tax and everything and run up your credit card, and then you find the same stuff at a flea market for half the price a little bit later. See, so be creative. In the old days, people would barter with each other, okay? Not just materials, okay? Not just say, okay, I'll give you some hay and you give me something. It's time, okay? You can share your time, your knowledge, and say, okay, I know how to do a certain thing, and I'll share it. I'll fix your car or fix your lawnmower, and then, you know, you can cut my hay or something like that, and bush hog my property or something like that. And the whole idea of communal, cooperative living is all about civilization. You know, we've lost a lot of that in our modern world. And I live in Virginia, and there's still a whole lot of old-fashioned values here. And living on the land and partially on the land and having family and, you know, doing a thing together, maybe a craft or some kind of an operation, you know, a business. Now, just before we go here, I will tell you what this thing is here. We argued about it, we debated about this in the thrift store here, and I got home and I just thought, I got to have it. I thought maybe it was a place to put like it's a hot plate, okay? You put it on your counter and you can put your hot pan on it. And I said, you know, it kind of matches my home. I'm in the 40s, middle 40s with my home, and this thing is kind of cool. So I got it. And then I realized, you know what it is? It's for iron. In the old days, you had an iron, you'd iron, and some of them were the old-fashioned irons. You just had to heat up to put them literally on coals. But then there was other irons. It became an electric iron. You do your ironing, and then you got to put the iron somewhere. Guess what? They put it right on this thing, and it just sits on the ironing board, and it's heavy, and it absorbs all the heat, and that's what it is. So I keep it near my stove. I think it looks kind of cool. It looks kind of like a rocket ship or something. But, you know, it's cool. So look around at thrift stores. It's just a fun thing. You know, as far as real estate goes, if you have an older house, it can be fun to period match it. You see, because if you have a 100-year-old house and you try to make it modern, it's just going to be, it's not going to look right. You see, it's just not. You almost have to just say, okay, I'm going to make the best of what I got and fix walls and so on, but I'm not going to try to make, you know, like I met someone a long time ago who they were trying to make like basically a modular home into a Victorian home. And if you know what those are, it's a totally different type of house, you know. And they lived for like 15 years of construction. They kept building things. It was just a nightmare. All these permits and things that they had to get. So be creative in the way that you live, and think about that when you move out to the countryside, because the whole idea is you're going to save time and you're going to save money. Like, you know, if you don't have to leave your property every single day, I mean, there are people who travel 90 miles each way just to get to a job. I mean, that's like an outrageous amount of money. Let's say 150 miles per day times 5. Whew, that's a lot of driving. And I've done a lot of that kind of driving. And if you structure your life in the countryside, you're going to save a ton of money. But just be resourceful, be creative, and learn. And this is what the internet's all about. We share ideas, and I love to hear feedback. Tell us what you've been doing to save money and where you get stuff. I go to flea markets all the time. I have at thrift stores all the time. If I need something, a lot of times I just wait. And, okay, I got a little list here, and if I see what I want, I'll just grab it. As long as it's not that urgent. Sometimes I have to buy new, whatever. But enjoy the content here. A lot of other things going on in this site here. You can learn a little bit more about buying and selling real estate in the country, especially in Western Virginia. So thanks again for listening. I hope you like and share, and hope to see you in some of my other videos.